All yours, Dimitri.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, I guess. This might be the case for most people. So I'm Dimitri Crespin. I'm a hydrologist here at the Hydro department in VUB. So at the heart of this conference, and I'm happy that we could manage to organize it finally, even online. And so I'm going to talk to you about a research that was done through a project called Brussels, so Brussels Sensitive to Water, focusing on development of nature-based solution to mitigate flood risk in Brussels. So we implemented a certain kind of cluster of citizens that we called hydrological communities. So we were testing a bit this approach to see whether it could help to develop robust propositions to assess flood risk in Brussels. So basically, the project itself is wanted to be interdisciplinary from the start. And so we wanted to integrate different practitioners, different types of expertise. So we at the VUB did the technical part, or in a way the hydrological part, so for flow modeling and flow measurements. But we also wanted to gather civil society. So we had general states of water in Brussels that helped us to find out interesting propositions, interesting clusters of people that we could work with. Definitely architects and landscape architects, in order to have an idea of what propositions can look like on the ground, and technicians to have a kind of independent way of researching on the ground in Brussels. Of course, the other part, very important, is the citizens, the inhabitants, the ones who are flooded eventually due mainly to sewage overflow in Brussels, but also people that are facing water-related issues, I would say, in Brussels, whether a lack of water, a wish of water, or just problematic, so flooding eventually from time to time. So this is more or less what the network looked like during this project, so which started in 2017 and ended in March this year. So like I said, main objectives is trying to understand how we can make the territory more resilient to floods, mostly using nature-based solutions with the idea of using the different amenities of dealing with water outside of the pipes, I would say. Also taking into account climate change that will change the whole balance of water within the city, and to try to promote this in the city of Brussels, where water is not very common actually, except from the clouds, obviously. But also the focus was to try to make the institutional system more resilient as well, trying to make them so more prepared to go to this nature-based solutions for water management, also to communicate more. So this echoes a bit to what Julian was saying before, making the link between the different stakeholders and the different users, I would say. These are some examples of Brussels flooded during heavy rainstorms, usually during summer. And so what is complex here, what could be called a wicked problem, is trying to understand hydrology in an urban context. I guess you're all aware of that. You got a highly disturbed water cycle, of course. You got flows on the ground, you got flows underground. You've got piping systems that is aging, and so difficulty for measurements as well. So again, difficulty to characterize the environment, highly heterogeneous, lots of private houses, private gardens, densely populated areas, some more residential, limited access for measurements and data, obviously. And I would stress on the underground networks, which is sometimes hard to rely on in terms of data and in terms of access of data. So the idea through the project is to, in a way, treat the research directly with the citizens and to state that they have a good knowledge and insight about their environment. They see the floods, they witness it, they how can I say, they live it in a way. And we wanted to integrate directly their expertise, their point of view in the modeling, and trying to see how this approach could possibly formulate solutions and actually make the city more resilient to flood in itself. So to engage in citizen science, we wanted to focus on local sub-catchments in Brussels. You have the map here on the right side. You get the Zenne River, which crosses Brussels from south to north. And we chose three areas, so communities that we called hydrological communities. One in the south, one in the north. And we wanted to focus in these areas on and to see what is the potential with the inhabitants to treat this research and to really go in depth with them through the different expertise that we have in the team and trying to involve them as much as possible. For this, we developed 4 tools. So new urban rivers, water islands, water citizens, and historical approach that we'll develop a bit later. And the idea is to really have an iterative process and to walk through all these tools with the hydrological communities, with the citizens, and to help diagnose, quantify the water flows, of course, and in the end, deliver solutions to share it with stakeholders, municipalities, and implement them in ongoing projects, planning projects, and to see to what extent it could represent a good solution and an interesting proposal actually for the future development of the city. So to illustrate these methods, I chose a case study. So here we're in the south of Brussels, around an abbey, so the forest, it's the name of a municipality here in Brussels. So there was there's an abbey that was there for, well, since the 12th century, I think. And the idea is there was a planning, renovation of the whole site. And we want to see how we could try and make propositions to use this renovation for water management. So it's an area that is affected by floods regularly. So you can see on the downside here all the buildings that are affected by floods regularly. And through the historical approach, what we wanted to stress on is the fact that water was actually a big part of the abbey when it was built, but even when it was extended and fully functional. But now all this water is gone. Well, drainage did its work. Buildings appeared, and of course farms went away. So through the historical approach, we wanted to really understand, where did this water go? How did it look like? Is there a link between the nowadays flows, on surface flows, but also underground flows, with these ancient rivers or little streams? And so we really did a historical work with the citizens who have a good insight of their area, and try to see if there is a link over there that could be that could be done really during this renovation to have water again in this area, with the idea of managing it to avoid flooding. So it was a really interesting work, a kind of very very involved citizens that carried on this research, and we could submit this afterwards then. So in this same area, we developed also some more local scale even research with water islands. So the idea here is really to try and have a collective water management between neighbors or inhabitants from the same building block, and to look at what are the possibilities there in terms of demand, in terms of capacity of a rainwater production. Can we directly infiltrate in the ground? If it's not possible, can we use a cistern? And mainly, the idea is to have these devices put collectively between neighbors, which is quite challenging in terms of jurisdiction, legislation, because, well, the city is not prepared for this kind of developments. And so in this example, we had this cistern put on a wall between two neighbors, which is well, kind of a first in Brussels that we've seen, with the idea to share the surface, but that the water is used mainly by one of the citizens who has a separative system for water reuse in his house, as the others doesn't have it. So here, designers and architects really focus on the difficulties that we need to assess for the development of these devices locally, so directly in the house.
3 minutes.
Yep. Water citizens. So this is more the hydro part. We wanted to really democratize in a way the science around water, to really make it accessible on what is happening, what amount of rain is falling, what are the flows that we can see in the sewer system or potentially at the surface. So this is the idea, to really put low-tech devices directly into citizens' house, and to co-interpret the results with them to see if we can connect the results that we see to the measurements with their insights directly. So after that, we're able to develop maps and really have also some new insights on how the water flows in this complex urban context. And finally, new urban rivers. So this is the idea to really set propositions in the environment. We have long walks. So this is a MapIt workshop that we do. We walk with the citizens, see around the opportunities, the problematics that appear in the area, and try to understand what can we do with these descriptions, and how can we link the citizens actually through hydrological problematics. So for this example, this is one of the final propositions that we had developed with the citizens directly. So this was done in the year 2019. With the relations with the public stakeholders, it's sometimes a bit difficult because they're not really necessarily involved directly in the research, but we have a lot of contact with them. And we're kind of happy to see that there has been some inspiration from the project managers to implement the kind of solutions. So this is a good sign for us that we're heading the good way, and that there is some potential for this kind of research. Okay, so I'll go briefly for the main results, but this was one example, and we had, I would say, a dozen situations like this in Brussels, which allowed us to more or less challenge a bit the conventional way of dealing with water in the city. And this goes to different a scope of different communication system, whether meetings or an exhibition, but also reports and consultancy directly with municipalities. Now, so the project has ended in 2020, but we still hope we're actually depositing a proposal for today for the next step, Brussels bis, hopefully. With the idea to try and implement these propositions on the ground directly with the public stakeholders, and trying to really use knowledge we acquired during this 3 years research to really try it on the ground and test more effectively this co-creative approach that we developed. Thank you very much.
That's me clapping. Well done, thank you. Any questions of Dimitri? Well timed, by the way. Yeah. You certainly showed us some beautiful scenery that we're missing, unfortunately, by not being with you in person at the conference, which is very sad. Look, I've got a question around just working with different types of professionals. So, you know, we're all perhaps pretty used to working with hydrologists, ecologists, sociologists, you know, sometimes chemists, but we're probably not all that used to working with architects. How did that go? Just the experiences of different languages, different perspectives.
Yes. Well, very enriching, evidently, because so designing really, so I would say they're the main designers of the city in terms of planning in general, and it's always a bit troubling how they quantify really some aspects they want to implement in their designs. And so here it's really interesting because we have the numbers in a way, and they have a creative approach that is more accessible for privates in general, but also for different publics. And so the idea to combine these expertise and to deliver, I would say, a nice or aesthetic device or management tools with an effectiveness is really challenging sometimes, especially in terms of jurisdiction, like I said. But it's definitely very enriching, and it gives you also another way, another insight on how water can be managed. It could be managed effectively, but it also be managed, I would say, uh, aesthetically or just
Mm.
uh, I'm not finding the word, sorry, but in a nice way, in a way, sorry.
Yeah, as they say, you know, form before function and function
Exactly.
before form, and you've got both of those. Look, we've got 3 minutes, and Hannah is getting ready, I can see. But there's a question from Alexei saying it seems like droughts are becoming as important an issue for this part of Europe as floods. Any ideas how your approaches could perhaps also work for droughts?
Well, definitely, we saw the effect of drought here in Brussels this summer. The idea here is again to treat rainwater as a resource as it should be, not trying to get rid of it as quickly as possible in order to avoid flooding, but really to implement it in the city and to use all its amenities, including water infiltration in the ground. So with the idea of recharging the groundwater table, of course, in Brussels, I would say this is not it's not going to be the main recharge area, but also using water as a how to say to decrease the heat island effect within cities, definitely. So there will be a link with the temperature, something we're trying to measure as well to see how this could be implemented a bit better. But definitely, I would say decentralized management tools is a solution to let water infiltrate and then avoid droughts and let the groundwater recharge. So we're trying to push also this argument, which is going to be unfortunately more and more true with climate change, as a to favor these kind of management of rainwater management even within the cities. So definitely something we think uh, this approach can cope with.
Thank you, Dimitri, for that. And thanks, Alexei, for asking that question.